Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We got some more breaking news here for the Green Bay Packers and their search for their new defensive coordinator, as they have requested an interview with a Minnesota Vikings assistant. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about his complete background, how the Vikings defense looked last year in terms of the key rankings, as well as EPA per dropback. What kind of scheme did they run? How often did they play man? How often did they play zone? Everything in between. I think you guys would be surprised. B-Flow coming from New England when he went to Miami, his big background was man coverage, right? And then I think you'll be really, really surprised as to see what the Vikings actually ran in 2025 from a defensive standpoint. We'll dive into all of it, as well as take some of your comments, questions, super chats, all that good stuff. Before we do, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you don't want to miss out on future breaking news, like this stream right here, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live anytime in the near future. Let's waste no time and let's get into it, as the Packers have requested another interview for their defensive coordinator vacancy. All right. And this time it's coming from the Minnesota Vikings. You're going, whoa, Clayton, do we really want a Vikings on staff? Would have no problem with it at all. Obviously, I've been pretty vocal that Brian Flores would be one of my top choices if you decided to go outside of the building. Now, he's probably going to get a head coaching job. It sounds like he's one of the front runners for the Pittsburgh job. Obviously, Coach Mike McCarthy is set to interview in Pittsburgh as well. That's going to be exciting. So what we're talking about here is, if B-Flow gets a head coaching job somewhere else, he comes off the market. Obviously, we have no shot at him. Maybe we get someone close to him. Here's the other caveat. Some of these guys will get promoted. They're going to have to decide who's going to be the defensive coordinator for Minnesota. Do they promote from within? I imagine they would. Or do they go outside of the building? All these questions have to be answered as we get a little bit deeper into this coaching carousel cycle here in 2026. Let's jump into the report. Ian Rapoport tweeted out, with the Jeff Hafley hire complete, the Packers begin their search for a new DC. They've requested to interview Vikings passing game coordinator / DB's coach, Daronte Jones, sources said. Jones interviewed in person with the Cowboys as well as the Jets. The Giants also requested. So this is a guy starting to pick up a little bit of steam in terms of a defensive coordinator spot. So the Packers are not going to be the only one in the running for him if they go after him. You kind of think of, Christian Parker before. We kind of talked about him, right? And if you guys want to know, if you want to know all the details on Christian Parker, we did a breakdown earlier this morning. You can find that video. I'll make sure it's attached to the end of this episode, so you've got it right there. You can click on it as we finish up this video. So he's one that was highly sought after before in the previous coaching carousel, if you will. He ended up settling into Philadelphia because the Packers obviously went with Jeff Hafley, and the same thing can be said for other assistants throughout the last 2 or 3 coaching carousel cycles when it comes to hiring defensive coordinators. So let's get into what he brings to the table. First of all, I like to go back. Did they ever play football? Let's talk about that. Got a little bit of Hawaii ties here. I see Coach Lynn in the chat. You'll be excited about this, Coach. If you guys, I don't know if Coach wants me to talk about that or not. But anyway, I thought you'd be excited that he has a little bit of Hawaii ties. I believe he's got some Hawaii ties, if I remember correctly. But playing career, from 96 to 2000, Jones played college football as a cornerback before his career was cut short by injury. Okay, so that was from 96 to 2000. In 96, he played 1 season at Temple. From 97 to 2000, he transferred to Morgan State University, where he played 4 seasons for the Bears. Note, his playing career ended due to repeated injuries that resulted in nerve damage. Now, this may not sound like much to you guys, but to me, if I'm a pro football player and I have a coach that he had his career cut short by injury, I don't know. To me, that's kind of a positive because I'm looking at like he understands what it's like, what the physical toll is as a football player. I think that little bit of connectivity matters as opposed to someone who never played the game or didn't play even at the college level, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but to me, it's definitely a pro as opposed to a con. He's going to have the player's best interest at heart. He's not going to ask them to do anything that he wasn't willing to sacrifice his body to do. Granted, it wasn't at the NFL level, but still it matters, right? Let's talk about his coaching career now, collegiate and high school from 2001 to 2015. So he started his coaching career all the way back in 01. So he's got 14 years of experience at the college and high school level leading up to the year 2015. So he spent 15 years developing his defensive philosophy across various levels of football. Leonhard Ryan in 2001, he began his coaching career as a graduate assistant. Then he goes in 2002 to Nichols State, served as the safeties coach there. Then he moves on to Franklin High School in Jeanneret, if I'm saying that right, high school from 03 to 04. He served as the defensive coordinator for two Louisiana high schools there. Then he goes on to Bowie State from 05 to 2009, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator there. In 2009, his unit ranked number 1 in Division II total defense. This is a guy who's busted his ass in the lower ranks and worked him way up the coaching ladder. This is really cool. UCLA in 2010, he served as a graduate assistant working with cornerbacks. Then he went on to a little bit of pro football, not the NFL, but the Montreal Alouettes in 2011. He was a defensive backs coach there in the CFL. Now he comes back to college, and here's the ties, coach. He was spent 2 years in Hawaii, 2012 through 2014. He served as a secondary coach before being promoted to the assistant head coach / secondary in 2014. Now, obviously, this was before your time, coach, out there in Hawaii, but then this is really cool. We've got Wisconsin Badger ties here too. He went from Hawaii in 2014 to the Wisconsin Badgers in 2015. He was the defensive backs coach under Dave Aranda. His unit led the nation by allowing only 7 passing touchdowns all season long. So had a lot of success as the defensive backs coach there under Coach Aranda in Wisconsin in 2015. Now, let's move it on down the line here. Coaching career, NFL and LSU. So this is from 2016 to the present date. Since entering the NFL, Jones has been recognized for his work with elite secondaries and his, quote, mastermind approach to passing game schemes. He was with the Miami Dolphins in 2016 and 2017, assistant defensive backs coach there, helped the safety Rashad Jones earn a Pro Bowl nod in 2017. He went on to the Cincinnati Bengals in 18 and 19. He was the secondary / cornerbacks coach. Then in 2020, he went to the Minnesota Vikings, where he was the defensive backs coach in his first stint with the team under Mike Zimmer. So he was there with Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer obviously gets canned. So now he goes back to college at LSU in 2021. He returned to college as the defensive coordinator for the LSU Tigers. Now, in 2022, gets promoted back to the NFL, all right, 2022 to the present date. He returned to Minnesota as the defensive backs coach in 2022 before being promoted to defensive pass game coordinator in 2023. All right, 2024 season, he helped the Vikings to a 14-3 record, leading the NFL in interceptions with 24 and total takeaways 33. What was a weak spot for the Packers this year? Takeaways, right? So you're seeing multiple candidates. Like I want to say Christian Parker in Philly, his crew, he's the passing game coordinator there. I think they were 11th in takeaways. You guys can go back and watch the video and get confirmation on that. And then obviously in 2024, they're now seeking here with the passing game coordinator with Minnesota, who led the NFL in interceptions and total takeaways there last year. Not this most recent season, but the year before. Those total takeaways of 33 is huge. 2025 season, his unit finished near the top of the league in pass defense, allowing only 1 passing touchdown in the final 8 games of the season. So let's look at those rankings specifically, all right? The Minnesota Vikings defensive rankings, just like we did with the Philadelphia Eagles, because obviously Christian Parker being a part of their coaching staff that we are requesting an interview with there as well. So Minnesota finished 7th in scoring defense, points per play allowed at 0.325. Notice the last 3 games, guys. And listen, I know they played the Packers who were banged up when we were sitting the starters, but .160 coming down the stretch is really, really impressive, to be honest with you. So again, they finished 7th in scoring defense points per play. Let's go to total defense, yards per play allowed. They finished 3rd in the league. Minnesota did. So when I was talking about the top 3 defenses, Seattle, Denver, and Houston, Minnesota actually tied Houston for the number 3 spot at only 4.7 yards per play allowed. That's really, really impressive there. So again, a top 3 total defense yards per play allowed. Next on the list, you've got passing defense, yards per pass attempt allowed. That's 7th best in the league. Okay, as Stephanie says, this guy's pretty impressive. Really is, right? Like, you're talking about a guy who's worked his way up from the bottom, and then you see his unit has excelled at multiple stops, takeaways, a couple years ago, and now this most recent year as the passing game coordinator, his passing defense tied for 3rd best. We look at Houston's defense, and we hold them up here, just like Seattle and Denver, right? Well, why don't we think of Minnesota that way? Well, because they finished the season, not making the playoffs. They're not in the limelight, right? So again, when you look at the total defensive yards per play allowed, Minnesota tied for 3rd with Houston. Now you look at the passing defense yards per pass attempt allowed, Minnesota's tied for 7th with New England, who New England is in the AFC Championship. I was watching the Patriots Unfiltered postgame show just before I went live for the morning stream, and they were talking about where the hell this defense come from. We didn't expect them to be this good, right? Well, Minnesota right there with New England in terms of their pass defense. Really, really cool. 6 yards per pass attempt allowed is where Minnesota tied New England there in the 7th spot. Now, and again, comparatively speaking, I should be doing this. I'll go back and tell you where Green Bay ranked, okay? We'll go back to that in just a second. We'll kind of wrap up with that, if you will. Rush defense, the Minnesota Vikings finished tied for 6th in yards per carry allowed. And again, I know he's the passing game coordinator. We talked about it earlier with Christian Parker, and you're seeing a theme here, are you not, guys? What was Jeff Hafley's specialty? He was a secondaries coach at heart, right? Coach cornerbacks, coach safeties. The 2 candidates that's been reported as the Packers requesting interviews for, both of them passing game coordinators. So DeMarcus Covington's in-house. Will Covington get a DC job? Maybe not. Imagine this approach. Imagine if you go get a new DC that's a passing game coordinator specialist, right? And then you get to keep DeMarcus Covington, who's your run game coordinator. That's intact with him being the defensive line coach. That sounds like a pretty good move, right? I'm really excited about that. So again, yards per carry allowed, even though he's the passing game coordinator, that's got to meld up with the run game coordination, all that. So Minnesota ended up finishing tied for 6th best in run defense, yards per carry allowed. Green Bay was 11th in that statistical category. And then takeaways, the all-important takeaways. We talked about how in 2024, his unit in Minnesota led the league in takeaways, right? Well, this year, Minnesota was 12th. So that's significantly better, obviously, than Green Bay being tied for 24th in the league in takeaways. You've got the Minnesota Vikings finishing tied for 12th. So not quite as high as Philadelphia. They're 1 spot higher there, tied for 10th best, or worst case scenario, 11th best at 1.3. The Vikings finished at 1.2. Now, let's fall back. Let's look at where Minnesota ranked defensively compared to Jeff Hafley's defense, okay? Again, scoring defense, Minnesota finished 7th best. The Packers finished 10th best. So Minnesota, better defense. Total defense, yards per play allowed, Minnesota finished tied for 3rd. Green Bay finished tied for 7th. Minnesota had a better ranking in terms of yards per play allowed. Passing defense ranking, Minnesota finished the season tied for 7th. Green Bay finished tied for 9th. Edge, Minnesota. Run defense, Minnesota finished tied for 6th. Green Bay finished 11th, tied for 11th in that category. Once again, edge, Minnesota Vikings. And then takeaways, the Minnesota Vikings finished tied for 12th. Green Bay finished all the way down in the tied for the 24th spot. Everything that Minnesota done defensively was better than Green Bay in 2025 across the board. You're talking scoring defense. You're talking pass defense, run defense, total defense, takeaways, everything. Guys, this could end up being this could end up being an upgrade, losing Hafley. I know people don't want to hear that, and I wanted Hafley back as bad as anybody. But the reality is, who knows? Maybe you get a better version. Maybe you get an outside of the building pick, and you get to keep Covington where they laid a really good foundation. Man, this is exciting. And if Derek Ansley stays too, now you're going to have a new DC, fresh blood in the building. You get to keep your defensive line coach intact. You would get to keep Derek Ansley intact. So you got DeMarcus Covington running the defensive line. You've got Ansley running the secondary, and you've now got a brand new defensive coordinator that's coming off a much better performance with Minnesota Vikings defense than the Packers had. Really, really interesting stuff, man. Let's talk about scheme. All right, real quick. What did they run scheme-wise? Now, when you think of B-flow, you think bullseye, you think man coverage, Bill Belichick, all of those Super Bowls they went up there. B-flow was here's the thing too. You guys have heard me reference the clutch play in the Super Bowl, Patriots, Seahawks. The Seahawks drive all the way down the field. They get inside the 5, and they call the pass play, the rub route, right? Where Russell Wilson drops back, quick little, just a 2 or 3 step drop, let that thing fly. And you had Malcolm Butler shoot the route, intercept the pass, game-winning, Super Bowl-winning play, right? Guess who made the call for Malcolm Butler to go in on that play? Malcolm Butler had not played well. They said he had not practiced well there. I gave you the background that week. They didn't practice well with that specific look, but the reason it got implemented and emphasized in the game plan was Bill Belichick's right-hand man, Ernie Adams. Ernie Adams combed through all of Seattle's tape and said if we find them inside the 5, they got Marshawn Lynch in the backfield, but they know people load the box. They like to run a quick little rub route, a little slant. It's almost like a flat and a slant together, and what you're doing is you're trying to pick off the defender. Well, Ernie Adams caught that on tape, drew it up on a card, made them practice it that week. They said Malcolm Butler was not successful all week long playing that specific defense. They said he failed 100% of the times while they practiced that on that card. Then you get down in that game situation, game on the line, and because Ernie Adams combed through the tape, this is why I think Matt LaFleur needs a senior advisor in-house like Belichick had, like Parcells had, like many coaches have. But he found it, they practiced it, they repped it. Malcolm did not perform well in practice. But now, fast forward in game, the call comes up. They're running a semi-stack look on the right. They're going to try to run the rub route, right? Well, guess what? You can go back and watch this too. It's I think it's called Do Your Job. Do Your Job Part 2, or it might be Do Your Job Part 1. You can find it on YouTube. Unbelievable documentary. They said that in that situation, B-Flow, Brian Flores, made the decision and said, Malcolm, go. He's the one. Brian Flores called the shot and told Malcolm, go in there and play that rep. He gets in there. I want to say it's Browner or Logan, one of those 2 DBs. When they got to the line, they recognized that he's the bigger, more physical corner. He said, let me jam and you shoot your shot. So they switch on the fly. I think it was Browner. It might have been Logan. You guys look that up, whichever corner it was. Jams the receiver, cuts it off. Malcolm Butler shoots his shot, picks it off. Super Bowl winning play because B-Flow called in Malcolm Butler to go make the play when he had 0% success rate all week long on a play that Ernie Adams combed through the tape all week long and found they may try to run this. Belichick putting all those people in place. That's the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not winning a Super Bowl. So this guy, the reason I mentioned all that, Brian Flores' brilliance in that moment with the game on the line to call for Malcolm Butler to go in, this is the guy that B-Flow handpicked to be his passing game coordinator. I paused for dramatic effect. I'm getting excited, guys. Like this guy, and listen, Christian Parker's a great candidate as well. This dude, I think I'm way more excited about. Like, yeah, this is sounding good. So what do they do? I say all that. Boy, that was a tangent, wasn't it? I got way too excited. I apologize. God, I love football, man. I love football. So B-Flow was known for being aggressive man coverage blitzing, right? Check this out. If you don't adapt, you will die. That's Moneyball 101, right? The Vikings finished the season with the tied for second best in EPA per dropback in terms of passing defense. What did they call this year, guys? So notice this. They called zero man coverage, zero blitz, all-out blitz man coverage 8% of the time, okay? That was tied for the most in the league, but it's only 8% of what they called. So what did he run predominantly? Predominantly, he played cover 2 zone defense. Now, let's see what the Packers called this year. How much cover 2 did we call? Only 18% to their 28%. So they played a ton of cover 2 this year, all right? Now, what did they play second most? 22% of the defensive snaps, they played middle field close, cover 3. Again, cover 2 being middle field open, cover 3 middle field close. That's a good balance. 28% of the time cover 2, 22% of the time cover 3. And then after that, it's cover 4, little quarters look, whether it's match or not, quarters look. And then 12% of the time cover 6. I say that because when you look at the amount of man coverage that B-Flow actually played, and obviously passing game coordinator candidate here we're talking about, when you look at what they actually called, they only played man coverage 19% of the time, 19% of their defensive snaps. They were in zone or zone match the rest of the time. I mean, you're talking about what, 81% of the snaps? Is my math right there? I think it is, right? Yeah, 16, 19. Yeah. So you've got 28% cover 2, 22% cover 3, 13% cover 4, and 12% cover 6, which is a hybrid version, a mix of cover 4 and cover 2. Quarter, half, quarter. One side of the field's cover 2, the other side's cover 4. Probably match principles involved there, which is man coverage technique that you teach, right? I don't know, man. This is exciting. This is really, I'm getting just as excited about this interview as I am if they were to go try to poach a Texans guy or a Seahawks guy, right? This is good stuff. So I'm excited to see how this pans out. And again, we're not going to be the only team that goes after this candidate. So we got to keep our eyes to the street here, our ears to the street, I should say. And we'll be bringing you all the information as other interviews may unfold here. But again, the news from Ian Rapoport with Jeff Hafley obviously getting the job with the Vikings, that the Packers begin their search for a new DC. They requested to interview Vikings passing game coordinator, DB's coach, Daronte Jones. Okay. Now, keep in mind, Cowboys, Jets, Giants also requested. So, going to be multiple teams looking to bring him in as a defensive coordinator. So, get him in-house. If he crushes the interview, throw him the checkbook, take him upstairs to 1919 Kitchen and Tap, get him the Elk Stroganoff, get him a cold beer, Wisconsin style. Don't let him leave the building, right? I'm really excited about this candidate here, guys. Again, remember the name Daronte Jones. Whether the Packers get him or not, we'll kind of be keeping up with him in the years to come, right? Wherever he does go, did he actually have success, right? We were talking about Christian Parker. He didn't get a DC job. Well, what did he do with the secondary? He had Philadelphia's secondary humming pretty good. This guy had the Vikings secondary humming really well as well. So there you go, guys. There's the breaking news. Just another candidate. There may be multiple get reported the rest of the day. We'll be right here bringing you all of the breaking information as it comes in. Do me a big favor. Hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out in the future. And if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. Everybody hit the comments up. Let us know what you think about this potential hire here in Daronte Jones. If you don't have a take on it, you got the information you came for, and you want to support the channel, do us a big favor. Just hit us with a Go Pack Go in the comments. We greatly appreciate it. So appreciate everybody. We will see you guys when other news breaks or later this evening. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
There we go.
Bye, guys.